Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Lang. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Lang.
Welcome to Finding Certainty, everyone. Thanks for being with us this morning. Just 2 days to Christmas, we have a special gift for you today. My guest, Dawna Campbell, is here to share with you some insights into your business and your personal life that can make a significant impact. Dawna, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me here with you guys today.
Our pleasure indeed. I've been looking forward to this episode because I know that what you do can make such a big impact in people's lives, obviously in a number of different ways, but we'll get into that today. But I really appreciate you calling in. You're in Big Fork, Montana. Is that right?
Yes, I am. It's where I live. It's a small little town. It's like the Hallmark Christmas story of the area. So, I always say live the life you love and love the life you live. And this is where I like to be. Absolutely.
I know you travel a lot. You're on a lot of stages speaking and building your business, which is international. You're a speaker, you're an author, you're a coach. The list goes on.
Yes.
But I bet it's always nice to come back and get away from the bustle of it all and get back into God's country, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so peaceful, and it's kind of like having your own little sacred space to refocus, and then you go back out in the world.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into a little bit about Donna and her background, her business, her sundry different roles. She wears a lot of hats. And but I always start out every episode sharing a couple of reasons why I've invited this specific guest to be on Finding Certainty. Our show is all about helping businesses, helping individuals to create more focus, more purpose, more legacy, more peace of mind in their life. I mean, we all have different definitions of certainty, but we have found that there are most definitely patterns that exist that most of us, I think, can resonate with. And, the first reason I invited Donna to join us is that what she does, I think, can create greater certainty in your life than just about anything else. I mean, we've had a number of different guests from all walks of life, but specifically what she does can be an enormous blessing. I refer to it as a gift, today's episode, but it could be an enormous blessing. So I think you'll really enjoy hearing what she has to share. Secondly, as we get into the various hats that Donna wears, she is a consummate marketer and brander, and she does just an extraordinary job of both promoting her business and helping others do the same. And I know that there's a lot of our listeners that are small businesses and growing businesses, even those of you considering starting a business. Well, today you're going to learn from one of the best on how to do exactly that and how to get your message out there better. So that's my intro. But Donna, if you don't mind, do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself? Where'd you grow up? Where are you from? And maybe your family. I know you've got a wife or a husband and some children. And tell us, who is Dawna Campbell?
Who am I? If I was to define myself as just a person who has a big heart, who wants to make a difference in the world and to make an impact. And for me, that's all about raising the vibrational level. So we're not always in the energy of anger. We can move into joy and happiness and the good things in life, because I believe that's how we're meant to live. But I grew up in California and in Silicon Valley, really on the other side of the tracks, because my family didn't have what everybody else's families had. And when I talk about it, I often reference the word poverty, meaning that not only were we on food stamps, we were on welfare. Both of my parents did work. But in addition to that, just so that there was extra food in the house, the next door neighbors dumpster dive for the day old food the grocery stores threw out and brought over. So when I found that out at the age of 14, I started working and I started taking care of myself and realizing the economic impact money had on a lot of people. So fast forward, I became really passionate about helping other people with their financial world because I wanted to help people have opportunities for themselves, their children, like send them to college. Because if I was going to go to college, I was going to work my way through college because it wasn't offered. And in that, I became a financial advisor and I moved up. I became a managing principal of a national investment firm. I was responsible for $500 million of other people's money. And after 10 years, clients weren't any better off than when they started. And I started looking at that. During those last couple of years, the amount of stress, worry, and pressure that was combined with my position, first, my health went, and it took me 2 years to figure out that I couldn't digest food because doctors didn't know why. Then my first marriage ended after 14 years. And then I was left financially devastated being a single parent raising 2 small children. And that was when I knew something needed to change. So I started studying quantum physics and myself, and I lived in an ashram for a year and looked at medicine women and shamans and yogic healers and Buddhist monks because that's what had me in common. And I realized the amount of fear, doubt, and worry and disbelief I had within myself and how to transform that to the faith, trust, and belief. So today, I'm known out in the world as a mind whisperer because I reprogram the energetic vibrations to your thought patterns to create a different outcome. And now clients, although I talk about and share a lot about the subconscious creation of money, I help them increase their income a minimum of 25% or more consistently just by changing that vibrational frequency from those lower emotions like anxiety and depression into those higher emotions, living your life on purpose. And those are some of the results. Their health also increases, their relationships get better because it's all encompassing.
I love that. Well, there's a lot that was packed into that short history. You know, you talk about coming from the other side of the tracks or from poverty, and now you're on the other end where you actually are involved with a nonprofit, is my understanding, that's helping solve or helping feed children, 20 plus different countries. And, you know, you talk about that. We can get into that a little bit later, but, you know, it's you've gone full circle. You've gone from impoverish yourself to serving impoverished children. And that's phenomenal. And, you know, I'm a big believer that obviously there are things that are more important than money, but you have to have your finances in order, in most cases, in order to enjoy certainty and in order to enjoy peace of life, to have the opportunities and so forth that we need. I heard a quote from Zig Ziglar once that said, money isn't that. I'm curious to know how you feel like your upbringing and you're coming from a position where you were on food stamps and your family was working hard but struggling to make ends meet, perhaps. And today you're an international best-selling author. You've spoken on numerous stages with the likes of Sharon Lechter and Tony Robbins and Joe Vitale, I mean, et cetera, et cetera. You've been on over 90 different media outlets telling your story and invited as a guest. I mean, I'm just one of dozens. How do you feel like your childhood impacts what you're doing today?
You know, not only with myself, but what I even see with all of my clients and the people that I work with, your childhood has a huge impact on who you become, your beliefs, and the energies underneath those beliefs, because that's where all of our subconscious patterns start. There's a couple of different areas. One, of course, it does come through the DNA because it does give you an energetic blueprint when you're forming in the womb, because it gives you the information to live by and it forms you. But every thought, feeling, and emotion your mom went through, your father went through, because you're connected by that DNA when you were being forms the initial part of your belief system. And then you're born, and then whatever's going on in the family and your direct experiences, that starts to shape your own reality. And then you have choices to make. You can choose to accept it as your reality and live that same pattern, or you can choose to make a change and do it differently or better. And everything that I went through in my childhood, even, going through college and the things I did in college impact my life now today. And those are skill sets that I draw upon to move forward. And our beliefs are formed, the energies that we're in. And if you really want to make a shift and change, we have to look at it more from a subconscious level, because that's the first area we learn. Before you can even speak, before you can even walk, your subconscious is recording everything from the moment you're born to the day you exit this earth. And it's assigning those emotions and feelings to the events. And then they get stuck in the brain and creates an automatic processing or mind loop tape for us to follow. So when we have that moment, that trigger, it just comes up, we just react. And we don't stop and think, how come that came out instead of this? But when that reprogramming takes place, you have a different operating system.
Well, I'm a firm believer in the power of the energy in our lives, the vibrations. We talk about mindset, the law of attraction, et cetera, et cetera. What's so fascinating to me about reprogramming our minds or our brains, which is one of the main ways in which you help your clients, is that when we know, if anybody's stayed awake in science class or has been around at all in the last 50 years, we know that our conscious mind or our conscious brain only manages a small percentage of our lives, right? You probably know the exact percentage, what that statistic is, but it's a fraction of what we do. Most of it is happening subconsciously, right? How we breathe, our responses, how we think, how we feel. I mean, so much of it is managed and organized and directed subconsciously. And so it only makes sense that if we want to make true, impactful change, we need to go to work at it on the subconscious level. Otherwise, we're kind of beating our heads against the wall, right? We see so many people trying to lose weight, trying to stop a habit, trying to improve a relationship or something, and trying to do it consciously. What is the percentage? Do you know?
Yes, I do. So we have over 60,000 thoughts a day, but your awareness level of those thoughts is 10%. So you might be aware of 6,000 thoughts. And that's if you're Albert Einstein, because that was his conscious awareness. So the other 90% is in the subconscious. Now, here's what's interesting about that. Out of those 60,000 thoughts, 80% of them are considered negative or low vibrating. This is where we have the anger and the depression and the anxiety, which means only 20% of them are positive. So it means that we have 4 times the negative thought processes and energy and vibration than we do positive. So when we say things like, I want to be rich and abundant, and we think it, but yet you feel a less than and a lack energy on the inside, well, 4 times greater, the universe, the energy in the world is going to return to you what you feel, that 80%, not what you're thinking. So it all has to do with the law of magnetism that drives the law of attraction, your thoughts. And the other third point about that is 80% of the thoughts you had yesterday are the same as they are today. So we repeat patterns and cycles. So when you go in, we find the event, we find the energy, we reprogram the energy. The event doesn't change, but the perception around the event does. Then you have a different outcome to create. And we're tipping the scales from those negative vibrations to those positive ones. And just like magic, good things attract into your life.
See, I'm a big believer in that. I had a guest on last week by the name of Simone Kavalheim, who you may know.
Yes, I do.
We were talking about the experience and the work they do in reversing Alzheimer's and the experience they had with her father-in-law. And we discussed a lot of this because, she's a huge fan of proper mindset and just the law of magnetism, as you refer to it. See, I used to think that attitude determined your altitude. We've heard that phrase. I grew up hearing it, and I just thought it meant, if I try to think positive thoughts, I'll work harder and good things will happen. But I've since come to know, not just believe, I know that there's much more to it. In fact, they have technology these days that can measure the brain waves. And they've proven that a positive thought vibrates something like 10,000 times faster than a negative thought and actually has magnetic quality, right? It tracks it tracks toward itself more of the same. So if you can fix the core feeling subconsciously that generates different feelings in different vibrations, imagine what can happen, right? Am I on the right track?
You are so on the right track. You're speaking my language.
So you live in Montana, you're married, you have 3 children. Is that right?
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have 3 boys, 2 girls myself. And I try to talk to them about these types of things. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But, as we approach our careers, our, parenthood, relationships, etc., I believe that these principles can have a significant impact. And yet we need to be cognizant and careful that not everyone quite understands them or gets them or maybe even agrees with them. And so I'm sure in your career, you've seen that. You've seen the ready believers. You've seen those who are skeptics. You've seen those who are somewhere in the middle, right? So I'm curious how you learned what you now teach. I know you went into financial planning and did that for several years and then eventually started your business, started writing, started speaking. But how did you learn these principles? Was it just by trial and error, or was it something more?
Some study.
Sorry, before you answer, we're up against our first break, but I want you to think about that question. We're going to go to a quick break. But I think it's really interesting. And I think it's a really good question that our listeners would love to hear, because you are an expert now. You're a world-renowned expert in this space. Yes. How did you get there? Okay, so let's go to break. But think about that question. When we come back, I'm going to have you answer it if you would.
All right, sounds great.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com. That's certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click Register at the top right.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com. That's certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We're with Dawna Campbell. She's the owner of the Healing Heart, Inc. She's also a contributing author and the director of training with Best Holistic Care. Is that the right name of the magazine?
Best Holistic Life.
Best Holistic Life, even better. Before the break, we were talking with Donna a little bit about how she became the expert in this space that she is. She is a world-renowned expert in mindset reprogramming, or reprogramming your subconscious brain. And I'm always interested in backstories. How did you learn this? How did you acquire this skill set, these beliefs? Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about your story, if you wouldn't mind.
Mm-hmm. My children were my greatest teachers, to be really honest. And when they were little, my son might have been 4, my daughter was 2, 1, in through those ages. And they would look at me and say things like, "Mom, there's purple and gold going down your back." And you're like, "Really? That's kind of cool. I don't know what you're seeing, but okay." And so it continued. And so I started asking questions, and I started looking at books, and I started reaching out to other people in the metaphysical world to understand what was going on. And I realized that if I wanted to know or see what my children were doing, I needed to have that skill set too. So I innocently asked one day, and a whole nother world opened up for me. And then I was remembering all of my childhood memories of times where things like that happened for me growing up, where your skills and abilities were there. It's just that throughout our worldly space, sometimes they get squished or sequestered because you're supposed to live a certain way or have a certain type of job. And fast forward, when I was starting to go through my own health and going through the Western medical community, not being able to figure out what was wrong with me, I spent 2 years maxing out my health insurance. They took out my gallbladder. I have everything from a stomach viral infection to acute pancreatitis. I spent 35 out of 45 days in the ER running 4 offices in 3 states as a compliance officer and a sales manager for a financial firm, raising my 2 kids. And so that was just really crazy. And I knew something needed to change. Well, after those 2 years, I sought out a natural healer who did some form of Oriental medicine. And that opened up my consciousness in a way, because she said to me, after the strangest intake, "Donna, there's something in your life that you're not able to digest in the outside world. So you're not digesting food on the inside. Don't worry. Don't go looking for it. It will naturally surface," which it did. So 3 months later, I realized what surfaced was in my first marriage, my husband had been cheating on me, unbeknownst to me. And that was when I knew changes needed to be made. And it wasn't who I was. So I decided to go ahead and leave the marriage with my children. And because I realized after about a year, I had what was me in common with all of those events, I needed to figure me out. So I moved to an ashram, which is a spiritual living community, because I was studying science and brainwave patterns and quantum physics and meditation. And you name it, I was looking at it. And I took the year off. And when I went to re-enter the workforce in the financial services industry, it was during the global recession. Nobody was hiring. My old firm was not replacing me or putting me back into my position. And I was left financially devastated with 3 children. So I decided to dedicate my life to this healing path. And that was when I got to meet other healers, natural healers, who really showed me parts of their techniques and what they did to actually heal themselves and other people. So today it is a mix of all of those things, my children, of course, and my children know how to do everything I know how to do. And probably even more, to be really honest. And then my youngest, who is currently 11, never had a choice. She grew up in this environment and didn't go through the learning process with us. So she doesn't know anything different.
Right. That's all she's known. It's interesting how our children teach us, especially when they're young. They're so pure. Yeah. They're unbiased, right? And they, you talk about that her seeing the auras or the energy or the vibrations, perhaps, that you didn't see as an adult, right? We have our blinders on and our filters, and I think it's really important, whether it's through the eyes of a child or by stepping back from our lives a little bit to take a different perspective. That's why it's good to talk to someone, get different perspectives, and surround ourselves with others who maybe aren't quite so or quite as close to the challenges, right? I think all of it is so important, and we can absolutely learn from both our children and from others. I was a member of a group, a networking group a while back called Vistage, and you may have heard of it. It's a leadership group where you meet once a month with a number of other CEOs or business leaders. And what was so great about it was a room full of people who were unbiased. They had nothing to do with my business, but I knew they cared about me. And so they gave me honest feedback. Usually your partners or your spouse or maybe even your employees or whoever they too are too close to the problems a lot of the time. And so it's really valuable to have an outside perspective that is unbiased, but also cares about you. And that would lead into our conversation about Mentor Studio, which I'd like to get into a little bit later in the show, what you're doing for professionals and business entrepreneurs and so forth all over the world. So let's talk a little bit about your work at the Healing Heart. When we talk about reprogramming your subconscious brain, do you mind giving just a minute or two overview of how that works? How does it actually happen?
Yes.
Without giving away your trade secrets. I know you want people to reach out to you and learn in person, but give us just the 10,000 foot view if you don't mind.
What I realized, it was all about the stories that we were telling ourselves, but it wasn't just the facts of the story. It was the emotional component tied to it. And it was something that an exercise, the medicine woman I studied with. Now, I would think that a medicine woman would look, long Indian, long braided hair, weathered skin. And the one I worked with and met, she looked like Mrs. Doubtfire. I'll say that. So how's that?
That's great.
Yeah. But her name's Leandra. Anyway, she taught me this technique. And she said to me, whenever the energy is too much, you have to pivot and shift. And she said, your story and what you tell yourself has an emotional component to it. So she had me sit down and say my story of how I grew up in poverty. And I did. And mine came out like a factual documentary. And then she said, I want you to retell me the story, but from a comedic perspective, as if it was a comedy. So I had to think about it, retell the story. And then she's like, I want you to tell it to me now as a drama, a sad, tragic drama. And then she asked me to say it and repeat it again as if there was from a third party perspective, from a place of abundance and prosperity. And there I thought I was off the hook because I got it. I was getting what she was saying. And then it wasn't. And it wasn't until she had me share the story one more time, but from a place of a higher power or a creation or something that created me. And when I started to tell that point of view of the story, that was when I had my pivot and shift moment. Since then, fast forward, I've learned a lot of different techniques to take somebody through that process. Instead of taking an entire day to shift one thing, you can do it in a matter of moments. And what we do is we find what the blocking emotional energy is. We go back to where it's located in the body, back to an originating event. We understand what the event was and what you needed from the event. And then I show you the techniques to transform that energy yourself, or I can do it for you. And then we go back to the event, where it was in the body, the age, all of that as our checkpoints, making sure it changed all the way through the entire life. So that's a little bit about the process.
I have a good friend who works in the same field as you. She lives in California, but you said a really important point. You said that it can be changed in moments.
Yes.
And that's, for me, that's the most significant, most impactful piece of all this, that, so much counseling and therapy and many different methodologies, they take time. I mean, you can go to a counselor for months, if not years, before you see significant change happen. But when you go to work on the subconscious and you reprogram it, it can be literally instantaneous.
It is. Yes.
And I've experienced that with my friend Jenny. I'm sure your clients have as well. And it's the power of the brain. I think there is something to whatever you call it, your higher power, the universe, God, that takes part in that. And really extraordinary things happen. I mean, do you mind sharing maybe just one story of a client that you've experienced that with?
Oh my goodness. There's 3 areas people want shift and change in, and that's usually with their health, wealth, or relationships. So when I sit with that, people want happiness, prosperity, and love in their lives. So we use money or prosperity as an entry point because it's quantifiable. And when you get to the quantifiable part and you ask them why they want more money, they tell you about their relationship or a lifestyle they want to live. And about 10 minutes later, they go, is that why I have this with my thyroid? And it pulls into the health category. So one of my more memorable clients was someone who came to me who had breast cancer for the 2nd time. And she didn't want to go through the traditional route. So we spent week after week after week transforming energy. It took about 3 months for this client, but she was the very first one. And we finally transformed plenty of the energy that today it's 6-7 years later, still breast cancer free. Now she thought she was going to cross over, and now instead they bought property, built a house. She works with dogs, got to do the Cesar Malone training. She has a goat farm, and she's living her best life. I know this because I see her on social media, and I love it. So it's all about living your best life. And there's story after story after story of clients who've gone through a transformation like that, who are now living their best life. Mark Usick is another one who was in the hospital and thought he was going to cross over because he couldn't breathe. And after we worked for an hour, the doctors released him, and now he's back out on stage sharing his gifts with the world. So there's many of these stories. And yet it all impacts their financial situation. It impacts their relationships, and it always impacts their health.
I love that. You mentioned your nickname, which many people know you as the Mind Whisperer.
Yes.
And when I heard that, I think of a horse whisperer, a dog whisperer, or there's several different renditions. And in my mind, that usually means that person is able to communicate with, whether it's the dog, whether it's a horse, whether it's whatever, communicate in a way that really works, that really makes a difference in their life. And whether it's teaching the owner how to work with their animal, or whatever the case might be. In your case, you're referred to the Mind Whisperer because you're able to communicate with and affect this change at the subconscious level.
Yes.
And there are ripple effects, right? It's not just one thing. I mean, you talk about increasing revenue by 25%. That's a pretty bold statement, but you've seen it work. I know you have multiple times.
Yes.
Just like you said, it's quantifiable.
Yes.
Right. But as we explained in the description to today's episode, it's not just finances. It affects relationships and health and outlook and parenting. And there's so many ripple effects when you address those core subconscious issues. That's what's most exciting for me about this, is that it is quantifiable. You do see real results, and yet they are kind of a drop in the bucket of what follows those changes, right? Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right on track there, because it's about having that ability to communicate on a different level. Because when I'm working with somebody, I'm listening to their words, but also what's underneath the words and the emotions and the feelings that come through, which guide me on how to ask the questions to get to the bottom of what needs to shift and change for the person. And then when you ask for it, you have to, here's the whole study of quantum physics. Energy fields talk to energy fields and they merge. And because I know the process and how to do it, it literally, my energy field will reprogram for them with what they're asking for. So we keep like the happiness and joy and let go of the anger and despair. And when they say yes, they have to have conscious permission. It starts to reprogram automatically. And what I do, because I have to have zero thought, I immediately drop into a transcendental meditation, even just for a few seconds, to have that energy of no thought to just experience their transition with them. And so, yes, it's listening to the vibrations underneath the words.
That's really
cool.
And
that's why I get called a mind whisperer, in part. And we start with the originating thought to find the thought under the thought under the thought, all the way back to the beginning, so we know where we need to reprogram. And that's the whole art of mind whispering.
That's amazing. Well, you said something earlier that caught my ear. You talked about how as infants, we're born with genetic DNA, genetic, even trauma, that may have happened generations ago.
Yes.
I know one thing I learned from my friend Jenny is that there could be trauma that didn't even happen to you or even your parents. It could have been their parents, their grandparents, or great-grandparents, and that is passed down genetically to you. And so when we're talking about working on ourselves subconsciously, working on the subconscious brain, it may very well be the most effective way to break that chain, maybe the only way to break that chain and truly enjoy a life of prosperity and peace. And so I love this topic. It's, it's interesting. So how do you work with the differing opinions? We've got about a minute to our break, but just one last question before our next break. But how do you work with the differing opinions? Because there are skeptics. There are those who this is new to them. Maybe it's not that they're opposed to it. They're trying to wrap their brains around it. What are your thoughts on working with the masses, I guess, is a good question.
Yes. I don't think that there's a biggest skeptic in my life than it is my current husband, who is a ex-Army Sergeant Major, retired for 22 years. So a veteran, just like you. And he's like, yeah, I don't know how any of this works. And yet he will agree that it works and that he doesn't understand how, but he knows the miracles. So for me, it's allowing the space of the other person for you to come to your own conclusions. It's there and it's for you to decide for you. It's not for me or anyone else to tell you. It's for you to experience and you get to choose. And I'll tell you, after several years, a non-believer into a believer.
That's great. I love the give someone room to come to their own conclusion. They may get there, they may not, but that's so important. You can't force these things. You can't force this type of journey. That applies in everything, right? We have to give each other room to grow and to
it falls right into alignment with what I call a healer's creed.
Absolutely.
There's 3 points.
Well, when we come back from our break, we're talking with Dawna Campbell, founder and CEO of the international consulting firm, The Healing Heart. When we come back, I'd like to transition a little bit into your other role, which is with the Mentor Studio, because besides helping people heal and move to their true prosperous life, you're helping professionals all over the world to work together to get there, right? And so I think it's a really important topic. But so thanks for being here, Donna. We'll be right back, everybody. Thanks for listening in. You're on Finding Certainty, and we will be right back with you.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty, everybody. We appreciate you spending your Friday morning with us. Friday afternoon, I guess, if you're back east or somewhere. We're in Henderson, Nevada. And my guest today, Dawna Campbell, is in Montana. So a little bit colder up there than it is down here, I bet. You've got snow outside,
Just a little
I know.
bit. Just some -degree weather. That's okay.
That's okay. You know, 4 seasons is a good thing. I lived in San Diego for a long time. I loved the weather, but I missed the 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. So, so we've talked a little bit about your past, your upbringing, your career that has led you to today. The lessons that you've learned in really understanding how to reprogram the brain. You're now a recognized expert in that field, and you've received a lot of recognition for your work, Donna. I mean, you've spoken on numerous stages. I mean, with the likes of Tony Robbins and Sharon Lecter and Joe Vitale, as I said, Lisa Nichols. I mean, the list goes on. You know, I think that even though this topic may be new to a lot of people, if someone will approach it with an open mind because they're hurting or they don't feel like they're achieving their potential, they want to get to that next level. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that most people come to see that there's something to it, that it really works. It's really effective. And you start to not only help people change their lives, but you start to attract others into your path. And
yes,
and you know, I'm sure you get a lot of referrals from people that you help. They refer you to others, and that's how much of your business has grown, I know. But let's talk about how you've taken that to the next level, and you're now working with Michael Silver and Mary. How do you say her last name?
Glorfield.
Mary Glorfield.
Mary Glorfield. Mm-hmm.
The Mentor Studio is really an extraordinary project. As I've gotten to know you and learned a little bit about what you do, it's very exciting to me of what you are accomplishing. But tell us just a little bit about the backstory and how it came into being and what you do, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. It was several years ago, I realized that for me in my own business, I wanted to take my message not only from the individual level, but to a global stage. And so for several years, I worked with a lot of different people and coaches trying to get to a bigger and bigger stage, because what I can do for one person individually, I could do for an entire stadium at the same time. Well, some of those pathways didn't work out. And then I got introduced to Michael Silvers, and I jumped on a call with him and Mary Glorfield, and they were telling me about the Mentor Studio and what their vision is. Now, they are the co-founders. Michael Silvers was the head of the coaching division for T. Harv Eker, did a lot with Bob Proctor, Zig Ziglar back in the day. Chris Howard, and Mary Glorfield. She was Tony Robbins' executive vice president for 18 years. She literally helped Tony build his career to what it is today. And what they wanted to do was leave a legacy, because people were coming to them asking them, "Kay, can you do for me what you did for them?" And instead, they wanted to leave a gift to the world. So they formed the Mentor Studio, and they are two of our top mentors, of course. And it seemed like a good, right, natural fit for me, because they were offering all of the different mentoring in the different areas that I needed for me to grow to where I'm coming, where I want to go to today. And I just fell in love with the entire organization, because I was understanding and seeing their commitment and loyalty and dedication. So I stepped up and said, I'm in. So now I'm the lead director, trainer with the Mentor Studio, and help them facilitate and implement all of the different pieces for all of the different mentors so everybody can grow. And our motto is about one team, one family, one community, because you're not meant to do this journey alone. So I'm great in my area of expertise. Reprogram a brain, hands down, I have it. I got that one. Ask me to program a computer, literally, to upload a digital product, not my area of expertise. But there's people in the Mentor Studio that technology is their expertise. Putting together events is their expertise. And so as you network and mastermind with them, if we really truly become family with each other, because we meet each other, we know each other, we get to fulfill those roles for each other and sharing the joy with what we're creating. And it's been the best decision in the last couple of years of my life. And I'm right on track for moving into the environments I want to be in for me to share my message with the world and create it a better place.
Wow, that's fantastic. I know several members who are part of the Mentor Studio. I know Michael. I've yet to meet Mary, but I have a lot of respect for Michael Silver and his vision for what this can be. You know, obviously I met him through Bill Walsh, who he travels with, and that's how we met, was through Bill Walsh's Rainmaker. Yes. And it's interesting because when we talk about reprogramming the brain, we talk about mentoring and networking and these things. I like the reference to ripple effects, because you start having these multi-layered benefits that come into your life, whether it's through relationships or introductions. It can be through just through access to events and settings that you otherwise wouldn't have. You know, I'm a firm believer that you have to build your tribe. You have to have a network of experts, because we can't be all things to all people. Just like you said, you know, the last thing I want to do, for example, is social media. You and I were talking about this last week. I need an expert in social media, because that's not something I enjoy or am good at. Same thing goes with web design. Same thing goes with accounting and bookkeeping. You know, it's part of the key secret or principles of success is to do what you're really good at, focus on your expertise, and then surround yourself by other experts. So how does the Mentor Studio function, if you will? Is it do you meet weekly? Do you speak on events together? How does that work?
Yes, we have a weekly networking call that's open to everybody called Speakers Theater. And you get to network, you get to mastermind with each other, you get to share your messaging. I broadcast it live on 9 different channels. And then we have a couple of speakers that share a little bit of content and their expertise. We also have weekly mentoring meetings for the mentors, for training, for mentoring, for working with each other, for collaborating, learning different skill sets. We have monthly forums, quarterly summits for our speakers, but yet it takes the whole team. So everything that we do, we teach others. We have an MC program, we have an elite program, depending on what your goals are and how far you want your message to reach out in the world. So our vision with the Mentor Studio is to educate, enlighten, enrich, and enhance all of our members' expertise and make an impact in the world. So we do it in several different ways within the organization, but we also take our messaging out to the rest of the world. So we have 300 to 400 virtual and live events. And coming up, we're going to start doing some more boot camp type training coming in 2023. But everything is leading to take our expertise and share it in places in the world where they may not get access to that information. So we have an idea of, having our tour start in Europe, going down to Africa, over to Australia, and then back into the United States. So we can really serve everyone, because no one's meant to be left behind.
I need to introduce you to a good friend of mine. He was my guest a couple of weeks ago. He's a NBA basketball player named Jared Harrington, and he has a nonprofit called BTO, Beat the Odds. And he teaches financial literacy to children, and he's doing a lot between the U.S. and Africa and so forth. But he would be a perfect addition to the Mentors Studio with much of what he's doing internationally, et cetera. Now you are a best-selling author, internationally best-selling author. Your book Financially Fit it's really redefining financial fitness.
Yes.
I know you've published several other books. I mean, you including Cracking the Rich Code with Tony Robbins. And there were two other authors. Was it Jim Britt and Kevin Harrington, right? Right. Now, you're also a contributing author to The Best Holistic Life. I've got a copy of your magazine here.
Yes.
For those of you on the YouTube video, here's Donna right on the cover. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your article, She Who Makes the Gold Rules the Bedroom. That should get some interested readers. I learned a thing or two when I read it. But as you look back over your career, everything that you've done, the people you've met, you have a really fascinating story, Donna, and I really believe it's just getting started. I mean, you're young. You've got lots of years ahead of you, and the connections and the experience and the relationships that you've developed, I think they're just going to take you to even greater levels, and that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to watching your journey, maybe even being a part of it. So
yes.
So congratulations. As you look back over your career, is there, I know you've met a lot of really interesting people, but is there one that stands out in your mind that you learned a lesson from that you think our listeners would benefit from?
Wow, that is a great question. And I think of all of the people that I've met, and I realize that we're all people moving forward on our journey, wanting to create something that's better than what was. And those are the type of people I end up meeting, and everyone has their own story with it. When I think about that question, the thing that does pop into my mind was when I was going through all of those difficult, hard times, I used to free write a lot. And a little mantra appeared one day on my paper, and it said, "Trust and you will see, believe and you will know, have faith, all is well. Follow your heart and spirit will lead you." And so when you fully trust in that and follow truly what's in your heart, it puts you on this course to meet people, to do these things, to share your messages, to make an impact. But I don't look at those as accomplishments, because they are accomplishments. But to me, I'm just me. This is who I am naturally, and I have my own journey. I think the writing that has made the best impact in my life is called Within Our Reach. And it was written in the 1500s from Fra Giovanni. It was a Christmas letter. And he talked about how within our joy, there's a greater joy, but don't let the shadows of yesterday hurt you today. And it's really the crux of what I do with my business and how I see it. So even if you have joy, there's a greater joy. Go find it, unwrap that gift and see what that is. And so those are the types of things that I look at. And as I meet people, as they resonate with that message, they've all made a profound impact somewhere in my life.
Well, that's a great message for the holiday season with Christmas coming up and New Year. I love that. I do believe that we can continue to expand. We can continue to expand our mind, our opportunities. Doesn't matter who we are or where we are. There's somewhere we can improve. I always say I'm never satisfied, but what I mean by that is I know that I can always get better, right? Meet new people, accomplish more, write another book, or whatever the case might be. So wore my Christmas tie just for you. It was the only thing I had in red. So to celebrate the season, I'm not a huge tie wearer, but I wore it in your honor. So we are up against the end of our time, but how can people get a hold of you, Donna?
Oh, the fastest way, if you are in the continent or in the United States, you're just going to text the word abundance to 26786. That's abundance to 26786. Or you can just go to the website at DawnaCampbell.com, and it has everything on there too.
All right. Well, you've been a great guest. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. Hopefully you're getting a break over the holidays to enjoy your Hallmark town and maybe make a snowman with your kids and make some warm eggnog. You need to try it. It's actually pretty good. I'm going to try warm
eggnog. I'm going to do it.
It's my favorite treat these days. So thanks for being on the show, Donna. Really appreciate it. If you come to Vegas, we'll have to get together again and we can chat in person. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday, and happy holidays, everybody. Wish you the best.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.